If you are interested in any of my tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides as well as any future guides that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and today we are diving into one of the most anticipated flight sim peripherals of 2025, the MOZA MTQ throttle quadrant. And here's the kicker: today we're not just reviewing one throttle setup, we've got all three interchangeable grip styles: the fighter combat grip, the Airbus grip, and the Boeing grip. So whether you're flying a fighter in DCS, A320 in Microsoft Flight Simulator, or the Boeing 737, this review will have you covered. Now this is more going to be a talking head kind of video because I wanted people to be able to do other things while listening to this if they choose, but so you guys may find that the video footage doesn't exactly match what I'm saying. It's sort of something that I do when I do these types of reviews is I will use a product for a while and then I will write out my details and record that separately. That way I don't get influenced mentally by what I'm seeing on screen, and I keep everything to what my thoughts were while using the product. But some of it may line up. For example, we're going to begin right now with the unboxing. So if you guys enjoy this review, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more flight sim hardware deep dives. Let's get into it. Alright, so first impressions do matter, and MOZA always knows how to make the entrance. The packaging is always premium. Thick cardboard, custom foam inserts, everything arrives protected and well organized. You immediately get the sense that this is a professional grade product, which I definitely think it is. Inside the main box, we've got the base throttle unit itself, which comes with the standard fighter grip, the TQF module. The Airbus TQA and Boeing TQB grips are sold separately, which is important to note for budgeting purposes, so make sure that you guys do your planning. Build quality right out of the box, this thing is solid. Very clearly CNC machined aluminum construction, metal toggle switches, and these beautifully machined throttle levers with what feel like a hybrid metal and composite construction. There's no flex or wiggle in the base unit. When it sits on your desk or using the mounting options underneath, you know that it's not going to go anywhere. It doesn't feel like it's flexing or crappy, to be blunt. The weight is definitely substantial. This isn't lightweight plastic. It feels purpose-built and honestly feels like equipment you'd find in a really good training sim. I really have always appreciated the weight of the MOZA product line in general. Now, let's go ahead and go through a tour of this unit. What makes the MTQ special, in my opinion, is that the modular design. The base unit houses all of your primary controls, and then you slide whichever throttle grip suits your aircraft. It's truly a pretty impressive design, really following the honeycomb Bravo, if you will. I feel like they took a playbook out of their item there, and it was very, very smart. On the main control panel, you've got 10 programmable multifunction buttons with full RGB backlighting, 16.7 million colors. You guys can pick and choose which way you want to go with your style. These aren't just decorative. You can set the display and telemetry through the MOZA Cockpit software, which has also seen some pretty nice performance increases and functionality usage. I've really appreciated the development process over the MOZA Cockpit. So you can have your buttons and color base on your flat positions, gear status, autopilot modes, whichever one you want, and you can change the colors around as you choose. You've also got 3 rotary encoders that have really satisfying click to them. Perfect for wheel trims or radio frequencies, as they have that tick that is sort of crucial for that part, making you know that you've reached another value. 3 toggle switches with firm positive action. They're not mushy at all. They don't feel like they're going to wear out in 6 months and break down. And of course, there's the dedicated landing lever. Now, it has the satisfying mechanical gate that I do appreciate. However, I will also feel the landing gear is one contention point. Landing gear handle feels very light, like it wouldn't take much to trip it by accident, so be aware of that. Now, the rails on top of the base. The throttle levers connect via the custom sliding rail mechanism, and MOZA has engineered an authentic detent feedback into this system. Each grip slides and locks into place with zero wobble, and the connection is both mechanical for the physical feedback and electrical for all of the button inputs. So now let's talk about with the fighter grip, which is what I would say that I spent the most time in. And this was in both DCS Worlds F16 and F18. They definitely got the HOTAS feel down. You've got your dual throttle levers that operate independently. Now, with the slider that locks the left and right throttle together is my next contention point. It's plastic. I'm very worried about that. I will say that this one actually brings me a bit of concern. It is not uncommon when flying an aircraft in DCS World to slam your throttles forward or slam your throttles back depending on what you need your power. With a plastic locking mechanism that brings the two together, I feel like MOZA, of all the places to drop the ball, this was a bad one to drop it on, because I really am concerned that this is eventually going to be something that breaks, but time will tell. The rest of the product obviously is absolutely fantastic. The afterburner detents on the grips gives the really perfect lift gate. So you have your detents in the rear for your idle and your idle cutoff positions, and you have your lift gates in the front for coming in and out of your afterburner. So that part is really nice to feel. The throttle range is excellent. I love how long of a range they added to this. I hate it when you get these big throttles like this and then they have a very short throw. Throttle range, I think, is critical. That's where you get that finite power adjustment. So the way that they've done this was just genius, in my opinion. It's a very perfect blend between range and functionality and keeping it within the reach of the wrist. It is smooth motion from idle all the way through military power, and then again crossing the detent into your final afterburner. The damping is adjustable through the software, but even at default settings, it feels spot on for most combat operation. I didn't play around with the detent settings and the feedback much on the Microsoft Flight Simulator side of things, as I felt that this was again something that I was going to really experience more in DCS World. There's enough resistance that you can definitely make finite adjustments without having the throttles floating around, but it's not so stiff that you're fighting them during dynamic combat maneuvers. And again, that's where that slamming motion forward and back, where I feel like that throttle linkage is going to break. You have a nice stiff grip, but if you need to move it quickly, you can move it quickly without feeling like you're going to move the entire base. So that's real nice. And of course, there's a tension adjustment down on the side that you can use the included Allen key to increase and decrease the tension, but it will increase the tension on all four axes. The button placement on the fighter grip is ergonomic as well. Your thumb naturally falls into the primary controls without stretching. So they've really done a great job. I'm really impressed with the combat set. Now moving over to the Airbus and the Boeing grips. I primarily spent most of my time with the Boeing grip. I fly more Boeing than I do Airbus, and quite frankly, Airbus just gets too much damn attention lately. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, just kidding. So I gave Boeing some love in this particular video, but both of these handle sets or grip sets follow the same pattern. They were both absolutely fantastic. So let's talk about this. Finally, so we have the TQB module. This was inspired by the Boeing 7X series, as you guys can very clearly tell just by looking at them. You got the 737, the 777, the 787. So right away you notice the extended forward range on these levers. The classic Boeing style long travel from idle to full thrust give you a very fine control over the power settings, as we discussed earlier. So again, that's more the base talking than anything. The defining feature here though is the lift arms to reverse thrust lever mechanism. These are very similar to what we saw on the Bravo throttle quadrant. However, the lift arms have a bit further range and feel a bit more like an actual reverse lever than just a toggle switch, is what we found on the Boeing set for the Bravo throttle quadrant. And this isn't, by the way, in any way meant to beat up Bravo at all. Just it's the only thing that I can think of that I really get any comparison to. So make no mistake that this is not a shot or comparison comparing one to the other. They're in two completely different arenas here. So the Bravo is wonderful. I want to make that very clear. So you also have obviously your toga buttons integrated into each throttle handle, then the go around button that becomes iconic on the Boeing handles. It was an absolute must to have. Press it during takeoff for your toga thrust, press it during approach if you need to go around. Having this button work on both sides is very, very nice and handy. But again, nothing too shocking there, nothing too outrageously surprising, but they did a great job in modeling it and making sure that they have it. Now the control panel, this is where the MTQ really starts to shine, because it goes beyond the just simply being a throttle quadrant. The 10 RGB buttons, they're not just pretty lights. Through the MOZA Cockpit software, you can program them for any function: autopilot modes, lights, fuel pumps, whatever you really want them to be. And the RGB feedback is a lot of fun. You can set these buttons to change color based on telemetry from your sim. Autopilot engaged, buttons go green, gear down and locked, green confirmation, flaps overspeed warning, button pulses red. There's all kinds of really cool stuff that you can do with this, so it really makes it nice for your simulation experience and overall immersion. My final wrap up on the entire product as a whole is it's definitely worth the money. The price point is dead on the money for the quality and the features that you get. Now, the Airbus and Boeing grips coming separately. Do be sure which one that you want to buy if you can only grab one. Although if you fly both, I do recommend doing both. Yes, that brings obviously the price and cost up, but you can always grab those later on if necessary. But each one certainly enhance the situation. And this is a perfect blend, is what I really appreciate what they've done here. It doesn't answer all the calls, right? And I don't know of a throttle quadrant that does. All of them have their gaps, all of them have their empty pieces. But what this does is this is the best blend of hardware that I have seen yet. Being able to rotate very quickly between combat and commercial, between Airbus and Boeing, is a big jump. It is a huge improvement. Honestly, because there are 4-axis, I do kind of hope that they bring out a general aviation set. I think that that would absolutely has a place here. At the very least, some sort of twin engine combination for your, your prop and your mixture, or your prop and throttle. But I mean, they could go a couple of different ways with this and still keep it fully functional. So they really got a nice platform here that offers a perfect blend. I think it's the best blend, I think it's the best blend that's on the market right now. Now, the unit doesn't come with any hardware specific for mounting on rigs. Now, that is a contention point, but you guys know me. If you've been following my channel for any length of time, I'm very DIY anyway, so I can't really hold that against them, but I know that everybody else, there are many of you that need that equipment. So it doesn't come with anything out of the box that is dedicated to it as a mounting solution. However, I will once again emphasize that unless you pull full forward abruptly, I will say the bottom will tip forward. It is forward heavy when that throttle is in the full forward position, so it can lift the bottom up. But if you are flying like general aviation, or you're being gentle-ish with it, I don't see that being much of an issue. You guys probably saw it a couple times in the video. I made sure to leave that particular piece in there that you could see the bottom lift up. Now, in case anyone's wondering, I didn't show all of the DCS, F-18, and all those testing videos again because I didn't want it here. I wanted to keep the process as black and white as possible, keeping it only to my thoughts. And again, I didn't want to be distracted by the experience that I personally had. I wanted to keep it to the facts and the things that I felt were necessary to mention about the entire product. To MOZA, I think you've done an absolutely wonderful job with this particular product. I would love to see some sort of desk mount system similar to that of the AB6, which we'll also be reviewing, so stay tuned for that video as well. And I think that's going to be a critical piece, MOZA, if you guys are watching this, because having a mounting option that will sit at the same distance away from your desk as the AB6 or even the AB9 is going to be a requirement. Otherwise, you're going to have an asymmetrical setting on your shoulders, and it's going to make your throttle very uncomfortable to use. So that is something to be thinking about moving forward, guys, is if you're using any kind of desk off the desk mounting system, so where your product hangs off the edge of the desk, again, like the aforementioned AB6 and AB9, this doesn't have anything like that out of the box. So you're going to want to make sure that you come up with some sort of solution. Otherwise, having your throttle as far forward as it would need to be on the desk, and then pushing the throttle forward while trying to maintain control of a flight stick that's hanging off the desk is certainly going to cause some shoulder stress. So keep that in mind. After long hours of flight, you may not be fancying the product as much, so think of that ahead. As always, folks, I hope you guys found this video useful and educational, at the very least entertaining. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you guys in the next one.